Kale chips. Do any of you even know what kale is, and yet we're going to make a chip out of it? Well, I love kale. I swear when I get married, I'm going to have a bouquet that I could hold in front of me that is going to be replete with kale. Why is that? Kale is really high in lutein. Lutein is a pigment that makes this very dark. There's purple kale. I really love it because it's got a great color, and green kale. And that pigment gets digested, goes to your eyes, and acts like a little internal sunglass, like a Ray-Ban in your eyes, and it protects your eyes from the damaging UV rays. So every time you eat something like kale, you actually protect your eyes against macular degeneration, cataracts. You keep your eyes healthier. It's a little lutein, a pigment that actually works like a little sunglass deep inside your eye. So we can make some chips out of this really neat eye protective food. It has lots of other benefits, but let's just say we're going to be focusing on the eyes and then the flavor. I like to keep a lot of greens in the refrigerator, so whenever I come up with a creative idea like making kale chips, honey, tonight I'm going to make some kale chips. It's available to me. The first thing we do is it contains this little stem that we want to get rid of, so an easy way to do that is to fold the vegetable on its side and cut off the stem, no muss, no fuss. And I do that to all of the kale leaves, and they're already in the refrigerator washed and stored, and I like to store them in these very healthy, they're called Snapware products or glass, either one. This one contains no bisphenol A and no phthalates, so I really like these guys, storing my veggies in there. And the secret to cutting veggies really fast, no muss, no fuss, is to put them all kind of in a bunch on top of each other and just cut them up into small pieces like this. You can kind of think of somebody you don't like. Ooh, I don't like Aunt Harriet. I'm going to be cutting up Aunt Harriet. No, that's not nice. Get that off of the film. As you put more of the vegetable right on top of each other, you easily cut. Oops, there's a wayward little stem there. We'll get rid of that. We put them in a big clump and just cut longitudinally and then the opposite way to get somewhat of little kale pieces, little kale eye protective pieces. And sometimes I like to go through the whole bunch in the opposite direction and just cut. The purpose is to get pieces of kale that are around this big that you can then stuff into the bowl. And for the seasoning, we're just going to use my favorite Three Musketeers, which is organic, cold-pressed virgin olive oil. And I put about 1 to 3 tablespoons. You could play with this to find out what is your flavor that you like the best. So I'm going to put 3 tablespoons. Generous tablespoon, so a dash more. Then I'm going to put the next part of my Three Musketeers, my granulated organic garlic. And then I'm going to give a little Himalayan pink sea salt and give a generous twirl. Take a spoon and make sure that each one of these eye protective kale leaves is covered. And then the secret of my cooking is layering. I like to put in the seasonings, the powdered or granulated seasonings, 2 and 3 times, which gives a little bit more texture to the flavoring rather than just once. I call that layering. And as you make this over time, you can figure out which flavors work for you, or if you want to add more flavorings to it. And when they're all nice and covered with the Three Musketeers, you can lay them out on, I like to use a steel cookie sheet rather than aluminum, because aluminum, we don't know whether it's a cause or effect of dementia, but aluminum is not so hot for the brain. So whenever you can cook in non-aluminum, the better. We're going to put this in the oven, bake it at 375 for 5 minutes, then broil it and test it for an amount that feels the right crisp sensation for you, and then you're going to have eye protective kale chips. Kale chips, we've just taken them out of the oven. They were in a steel pan, so we have to use almost an industrial strength, really protective mitten because the pan gets very hot, so be prepared. Putting the pan down, we've transferred the baked and then broiled, and it takes about 5 minutes to bake and anywhere from under 5 minutes to broil to get them all real crispy, the kale chips, into a bowl. The secret then is that layering of our seasonings. We add seasonings once again, not just before cooking. I add a little bit more of my 3 Musketeers, but I'm going to put 2 Musketeers in instead. The garlic, Himalayan sea salt. Our seasonings give us so many wonderful nutrients. We could add a lot more seasonings if we wanted to than other than garlic, but these 2 give a lot more flavor. Adding them also after cooking is called layering, and it gives it more scrumptiousness. Now it's totally ready to be enjoyed. It's incredibly good. It's hard to believe. Oh, it's delicious. This is just kale, a vegetable you might not even be familiar with the 3 Musketeers, baked and broiled. You can use this as a chip. You can put it on the table for people to use as their vegetable with a meal. You can put it in a plastic bag and munch on it when you go to the movies. You don't have to eat popcorn. You could say to your friends, I think I'll bring a bag of kale chips, and they can look at you like you've lost your chips. Anyway, there's 1,000 ways in the big city to eat a chip. So this has been the Kitchen Doctor is in, transforming science into yummy, healthy food.